We've got a great session for you today, from Stripe chaos to SaaS clarity, accurate MRR in HubSpot. First, we'll do a quick welcome and intro. We'll save some time at the end for a Q&A session, and then we've got our upcoming Boston Hug events, including an in-person event coming up. Today's speakers are Joss Poulton and Rachel Decker from ClearSync. I met Joss and Rachel actually at our last in-person Hug event. We got to chatting, started talking about the work that they're doing at ClearSync, and how that's beneficial to HubSpot users. And we said, oh, we got to get a session together. So thank you both, Joss and Rachel, for joining us for today's session. And with that, I'm going to stop my screen share and pass it over to you two.
Cool. I'm happy to kick us off. So thank you for having us. We have been HubSpot users and clearly former employees for quite a while. Rachel, feel free to pop it over to our next slide. So yeah, Rachel and I started our careers at HubSpot support back in the day and have worked for a number of high growth SaaS companies for the past 15 years. My background's in RevOps, so I have been working with business systems for a while and continuously came up with the challenge of integrating Stripe with CRMs. So I was at a company called Onshape in 2015 that was a PLG company, and we were using Stripe and Salesforce, and we had to build our own Stripe to Salesforce integration. And I realized I never want to do that again. We ended up having to have like a half a person on that integration full time. And it was a big challenge. And if you fast forward now to 2026, we see a lot of product-led growth, self-service, hot AI startups using HubSpot more often than Salesforce. And we found there's a big gap in the market of trying to get Stripe data into HubSpot specifically, and lots of companies that have that use case. So Rachel and I are also best friends, and we're thinking of ideas for a bootstrap startup that we wanted to focus on full time. And about a year ago, we decided on ClearSync and on building the next generation Stripe to HubSpot integration. So excited to talk to you about our product, but also the other options that you have if you're looking to integrate Stripe and HubSpot. So we will talk about like why, a little bit more detail about why this is so difficult. And we'll go over three options. So we'll go over if you wanted to do it yourself, so manual uploads or building a data warehouse integration. We'll go over using ClearSync as an option and what we do, and we'll also do a live demo of the free native Stripe and HubSpot app. And those are kind of the three major ways to do this right now. So hoping that you walk away with an understanding of the differences. And yeah, it's a very confusing space. So excited to just like talk about it and make it easy for people to understand the trade-offs. So I know we have a small group here. So if we don't end up doing this full poll, it's totally fine. But curious, Adam and Emma, if you feel like coming off mute or commenting, if you're using Stripe to manage subscriptions today, or just one-time charges, or both.
No, not at present.
Okay, cool. Rachel, we can go to the post-poll slides here. So Stripe is like, we've seen the same thing play out at many different companies where, it's exciting. You start to build your product. You want to build a self-service buying experience, and the engineering team will almost always pick Stripe. It is the best tool to use for a development team to build a billing experience inside your product. It can manage free trials. It can convert the trials to paid. It can support a million payment methods, currencies, right? And API documentation is some of the most beautiful documentation I've ever seen. So it is, I think it's got to be like 80% or more of new SaaS self-service products will use Stripe for billing. And that decision to use Stripe is made before there's even a go-to-market team, before there's even a sales rep or someone in finance, which is just really interesting. So often the first go-to-market team gets hired and they kind of inherit Stripe as part of their tech stack. And I would say the biggest, if I had to point to one big challenge here, it is thinking about the notion of a customer, right? HubSpot is a CRM, a customer relationship management platform, and Stripe just thinks about customers totally differently. So Stripe, you could think of it almost as more of a B2C model, where a customer in Stripe is a unique billing email address. So if I have a Hulu subscription, it's under my email. Great, that works fantastically well. If you're a self-service software company like we were at Onshape, you could have, 10 individual subscriptions all within one company. And Stripe is going to think of those as 10 companies and HubSpot or customers. And HubSpot's going to think of it as one company. So like right from the starting point, like Stripe isn't built to be the system that your go-to-market team is in every day. HubSpot isn't built to like bring in and merge all of this Stripe, more B2C setup billing logic. So fundamentally, it just becomes really tough from a data structure perspective to merge the two. Can you keep going here? So I think customer context is the next big thing where Stripe does have some really, really nice, powerful reporting capabilities, but all of your customer context is in HubSpot. So you might know in a HubSpot company, we have all these Breeze enrichment credits, and we get employees and industry and revenue range and location. And it is such a powerful use case to merge your revenue data with that HubSpot segmentation data. And you also might have segmentation data that's specific to your company, like your product lines or like a specific like setup question that you ask all your customers, like, are you this persona or this persona, right? And you maybe want to see your revenue data, which customers are upgrading, what segments are, buying more of your product, what segments are churning. In this really simple pie chart, we're showing MRR by industry, where you could tell more easily what's working and what types of customers make up your install base. So I think go-to-market teams want to be able to run their own reports in HubSpot. Like a sales leader wants to be able to slice and dice all of their revenue by all of these different segments. So I think that's the like bringing that customer context with the revenue data together and layering on top Breeze enrichment and the ability for everybody at the company and the go-to-market team to make reports is really exciting. So recently, this note at the bottom is that Stripe has added some MRR reporting in the billing dashboard, which is really cool. And that is like one option here that we'll talk about in just a moment, is to basically take that and manually upload it into HubSpot. All right, let's keep going. Okay, cool. So yeah, just to recap, we're going to go through these different options or ways to integrate Stripe and HubSpot DIY, the free Stripe data sync app, where I'll do a live demo. Rachel will talk about HubSpot Commerce. This is super confusing. Probably the most confusing thing in this landscape is HubSpot Commerce versus native Stripe. We're going to hit on that. And then we'll do a really quick demo of ClearSync at the end. Okay, so option one, DIY. So now that Stripe has built that ability to export MRR and their definition, we see some customers using that and doing like email matching to HubSpot contacts and kind of enriching the contact records. That works for knowing as of the last import what the MRR is, but it's not going to cover the full history or to be able to report on MRR changes to MRR over time. There are also SaaS analytics tools like SaaS-grade, Profitwell, or ChartMogul that have the same kind of limitation, where you can kind of export the as of right now version of MRR or ARR. And if that's your requirement, you just need to know what it is today, that can work well. You can also try to track history on the MRR field and do some kind of hacky reporting in HubSpot. The more advanced method of the DIY approach is to piggyback off of a data warehouse integration. So in this chart in the bottom, or this simple flow diagram, to do that, you need to extract about 10 different objects from Stripe, get it into your data warehouse, which is usually BigQuery or Redshift, or Snowflake, and then transform that data and match it to contacts and companies and custom objects. In my experience, it's usually like a couple month project involving a data warehouse engineer, and you'll often want to make some nice reporting and BI tools. And getting reporting into HubSpot is still a challenge usually with this setup. So totally doable, and I think it makes sense if you have a lot of really custom definitions for MRR. So I think companies with usage-based pricing, and usage-based pricing is a really hot topic in MRR, which is, if you think about product usage, it can go to, 300% 1 month and then drop to zero. And right, so like figuring out what the recurring revenue is can be a little bit of an art. So I think that's where this data warehouse integration can make a lot of sense. Does anyone have any questions on the DIY approach or any examples? Cool. We can keep going. The data sync app. So this is one of the most common apps installed in HubSpot, and we can see there it's got like a 2.2 star out of 5 rating. It is a little tough to work with. So data sync in HubSpot is a platform. It came from an acquisition called PieSync back in the day, and there's data syncs for hundreds of different apps. And data sync is really good at moving data from one place to another. But like we were talking about with the previous slide, right, there's so much transformation that needs to happen with Stripe data that just moving the data from one to the other doesn't solve all of those issues. So I'm going to actually show you live what that looks like. We're going to go over some of my favorite features of the free Stripe app that's available in the HubSpot marketplace. So I've already installed the app, and once you've installed it, you'll be able to go into CRM syncs, and you can sync up to 5 objects. These 2 require custom objects, the ones labeled SDFs here. So you'd need HubSpot Enterprise for those. But I think the most powerful ones are the Invoice sync and the contact sync, which should be available to all versions of HubSpot. So the Invoice sync is configurable in the sense that it has all of these default mappings that you can disable if you'd like to. I recommend leaving them on. And then you can also add custom mappings for additional fields that are available. To do that, you need to add new fields in HubSpot on the invoice object to then be able to map them. You can do that all here within this UI. So you can just go down the list and create the fields, which is pretty easy. And once you have created those and mapped them, then you'll be able to see the invoice data that's in Stripe coming into HubSpot. So it will import historical invoices and will sync them in approximate real time going forward. So in this example, we have an invoice where $1 was paid, and we see we have some really nice available fields like the start date and end date, and we have the subtotal. So now we know it was a $10 invoice that had a discount that got it to $1. We see the status that it was paid, and then further down, we see it was related to a contact because we had enabled that part of the sync as well. In Stripe, billing email is essentially a customer, which syncs nicely to a HubSpot contact record. We can also see that a line item was created. This isn't super useful because here it's showing the line item, but it doesn't reflect the discount that we know is there. If I click into the contact that is related to the invoice and scroll down a bit, should be able to find that list of invoices related to the contact. So we know our example is paid. There it is for $1. You will be able to create some pretty nice roll-up fields as well. So here in the contact, we could create a roll-up that is summing the total paid invoice amount, which would give us essentially the total customer spend. You can also roll that up to a company. So a very common setting in HubSpot is to create a company for a contact automatically if there's a unique domain. That's a really nice setting for self-service transactions like this. Then you could roll that information up to the company. The app has those other objects that you might have seen in the beginning, such as subscriptions and payment transactions. Those feel a bit incomplete. So they're missing dollar amounts, they're missing coupons, they're missing all of the information that you would need to get value out of them. So I really recommend focusing on syncing contacts and invoices for those reasons. If you do have a subscription business, definitely recommend checking out our company's app, ClearSync, which can bring in recurring revenue data into Stripe and presents it in a much easier way to digest and report on.
So Josh just talked through the data sync app. The next piece, another option you have for getting your subscription data into HubSpot, especially if you want to report on it and use HubSpot as your source of truth here, is if you have been using Stripe or you're starting off new, HubSpot Commerce is totally an option. It's newer on the scene, much newer than Stripe. So a lot of people have started in Stripe, but now they have the option to go to HubSpot Commerce if they'd like to. I think this is a really confusing piece of the ecosystem because HubSpot talks about Stripe in a lot of their documentation, and it makes it seem like you can use Stripe as a payment processor. But here's what's actually happening. So if you move to HubSpot Commerce, you are choosing to move to HubSpot to be your system of record for your subscriptions. So if you have a business that does recurring revenue payments or sells something on a recurring basis, you can totally choose to use HubSpot to be the system of record for that. So instead of Stripe owning the subscription, HubSpot owns the subscription, and there's that subscription object in HubSpot. So they have the native quoting, they have billing, they have subscription management, they have reporting. It all works all together in that one object or in those multiple native HubSpot objects. So that's a great option, and it's something that HubSpot has built to kind of compete with Stripe in that arena and make it really easy for you to see all of your payment and revenue data alongside all of your CRM and customer data. So it's a great solution for that. So you can get all these MRR calculations and reporting. You can get a unified billing and CRM experience. And it's also a little bit cheaper than using Stripe, which is a benefit. So they take HubSpot takes fewer fees per payment than Stripe does. So definitely a benefit. So if you would like to use HubSpot for that, you can. The one thing to think about is it's not as robust yet as Stripe. So Stripe billing has been around for a really long time. So it's really a robust system for doing all different types of payments, whereas HubSpot Commerce is still building. So if you have a complicated pricing model, usage-based, maybe an AI tool, HubSpot Commerce may not be able to support everything that you need to do yet, but it is an option. So if you are migrating from Stripe to HubSpot, that's just something to think about. And you'll need to use a HubSpot Pro or Enterprise account to use those revenue reporting features. So again, it's totally an option, but it's best for folks who have a simple subscription model or who really, really want to migrate off of Stripe to migrate into HubSpot Commerce, at least right now. Anything you would add to that, Joss?
I think we're just seeing like teams that are maybe like a membership association, something like that. Like this is a really good fit for. But if you are a SaaS company trying to integrate your products, like self-service billing, like the APIs and like just aren't there yet for HubSpot Commerce. So I think most SaaS companies we're seeing with Stripe and like you said, just like more simplistic setups and product libraries, and maybe even more B2C companies we're seeing using HubSpot Commerce.
Perfect. Okay. And then the fourth option is if you're staying with Stripe, you want to continue to use Stripe as your source of subscriptions and billing, and you want to use HubSpot as your CRM. That's where ClearSync comes in. We are built specifically for this very specific niche. And what we do is we make sure you can sync all of your customer and contact and company data from Stripe over into HubSpot. We'll reconstruct the history of all of your subscription data, show you how your subscriptions came to be from the beginning of time to now, and give you the ability to create a bunch of different reporting capabilities, workflows, all that type of stuff, so that you can give people visibility in HubSpot to who's paying for what. Start tracking your MRR, your churn, your upgrades, and your downgrades all in one place. So I'll give you a quick demo of how that works right now. So this is ClearSync. We built this to be a real self-serve product, so you should be able to come in and just set it all up in a few minutes. And the point is that you can just start an account and then connect to your Stripe account. We don't modify any Stripe data. We just simply read it from Stripe. So we're never like taking any of your data from HubSpot and pushing it into Stripe. Or sorry, yes, we're not taking data from HubSpot and pushing it into Stripe. We're not letting you modify subscription data in HubSpot that would push to Stripe. Stripe is your source of truth here as to what your subscriptions are. So we honor that. So you just put in your Stripe API key, And then you import your data into ClearSync. Again, this is full history of everything of all time. So what customers often do is they import their Stripe data and then they can see it in ClearSync before they want to import it into HubSpot. So here's an example of this customer's subscription list. Let's say if we look at Y charts again here, we can see that their subscription status is active. And as of today, they're paying $1,600 in MRR. What product they have, how many seats of that they have, and how they're billing. We can also see over time, when they started the subscription, how much they were paying. So $800 a month. And then a few months later, they upgraded and now they're paying $1,600 a month because they added another seat. So this lets you see the history of those things. And these are the types of events and data that we'll push into ClearSync for you. So that lets you start seeing all of this data and your whole team seeing all this data in HubSpot and start to do reporting. So after you see all your subscriptions, then you can just connect to HubSpot and then import all of your data there. So if I pop into HubSpot here, this is what that same data would look like. So we're looking at the Y charts example. This is the company record for Y charts. You can see that we have some data from ClearSync here within the Y charts example, but we also use app objects to create different records for the subscription object so that what are they paying today? Again, $1,600. They're active, they're unprofessional, they have 2 seats. And then we can see those events that we were looking at, which are the equivalent of these. So the history. So we can see, hey, that, in 8/25, they became a new customer for $800. And then they upgraded again in November for another $800. And we can see that whole history here. And what that allows you to do is then build really nice reporting to see how has this customer changed over time and just how has my MRR changed over time. I could also pop into the subscription here and just see at a glance everything I would want to see about this subscription right in HubSpot as it's related to deals, contacts, and companies all in one place. So we allow you to see all of that at a glance. Then the other thing it allows you to do is build some great dashboards in HubSpot. So you can see things like your current MRR, your current ARR, how many active subscriptions you have, and then how that MRR has changed over time. So allowing you to see, for example, your new MRR, your upgrade, downgrade, and churn month over month. And you could click into that and just say, hey, which customers did come in this month? And how much were they worth? And so you can start getting that kind of detailed reporting right in HubSpot, which is pretty powerful. You can start make more charts about your total upgrade and downgrade churn MRR. Going back to how do you marry your customer context with your revenue context, you can start saying like, hey, how much revenue do we have per product or per country, per industry, per employee range? These are just examples of different things you might want to break down your revenue by with your HubSpot customer context. So you have to marry that revenue data with that CRM data in order to see that here, which is what we allow you to do. And then you can see your top customers in a list, your past due subscriptions. Let's say you can do a whole bunch of different stuff that you'd want to do. And you can also use this data to kick off workflows. For example, if you want to say, hey, this person is past due for payment. Anytime that this goes past due, I want to kick off a workflow from their account rep to try to collect payment and make that a more personalized experience. So that's just one example of something that you could do once all of this data is all together in HubSpot. And that's it. Once you set it all up, it just keeps running. It's always pushing from Stripe into HubSpot within 5 minutes of anytime anything changes. So everything's all up to date. Anything you would add there, Joss? No.
I think you nailed it. Workflows are really exciting too, right? Because we have those events coming in. Like every time there's a new sale or an upgrade or a churn, you can trigger Slack notifications or new customer assignments or all sorts of different automations. So yeah, I think you did a good job.
Thank you. And that's it. So those are our 4 different examples of the different ways that you can get your revenue data into HubSpot. Again, DIY, the HubSpot Data Sync app, HubSpot Commerce, and ClearSync. So we have a few resources we'll send to you guys after this. You can always start a ClearSync free trial, but we'll also we have a video and a blog post that goes deep into how that HubSpot Stripe data sync app works. If you're really interested in that, some people definitely are, and it's a confusing space. So we have some resources on that. And if you ever want to talk about any of these niche topics, we have a booking link. If you want to chat with us anytime, we can go through it. If you have any questions yourself or for customers, we're really, really happy to chat. We also created this little chart we'll send out as well that shows the differences between all the different options. But that's it.
Nice. I see Sean has a couple questions there in the chat. Thank you, Sean. So first question was, once connected, does HubSpot still remain your daily view system of record, or do people look at both HubSpot and ClearSync? That's a great question. We built the product so that people are looking in HubSpot. So the goal is for you to create dashboards and reports in HubSpot, which is where the team lives. So once you've actually set up ClearSync, you shouldn't really need to be logging into it. It can be helpful if you're like troubleshooting something, but most of our customers will set it up and then be consuming the data all just within HubSpot. Second question here, does ClearSync have a list of recommended reports and workflows to set up and sync? Yeah, we do. So we have docs, docs.clearsync.ai, and we have a whole section of setting up in HubSpot and recommended reports. For most of our new customers, we're also offering to log into their HubSpot for them with temporary access, and we'll set up our recommended reports. And if they have any custom segmentation fields they'd like reports made with, we're happy to do that for them too. But yeah, our goal is to make this self-service so you can both sign up and connect yourself, even if you're not a RevOps expert, and then to have really good documentation. We'll be adding videos this week and next week too to show how to create the reports as well. So yeah, awesome questions. Does anyone have any other questions for us?
A quick question on data capture frequency, specifically as it relates to clients with usage-based pricing, to be able to see any trend, extrapolate from ebbs and flows in usage to be able to gain some intelligence as to what might be driving that.
Yeah.
Like, can you get that granular that it is, day by day, or do they all roll up to like monthly reports?
That's a great question. With usage-based pricing, we've seen so many different takes on how that can be set up and what the model is. I would say for most customers, they are integrating product usage data with Stripe directly. And then some of them will stream data like you're describing, like in real time to Stripe. And others will kind of have it true up at the end of the billing period. So it's like, hey, you're about to issue your next bill, and it's going to include whatever overages from the previous period. So just to like be transparent, our product does not yet fully support usage-based pricing. And it's something we're trying to look into and better understand, just because every conversation we're having is so different about how they think about usage-based pricing. We would really welcome like any of those conversations if you have any examples. But that's the model we see the most, is like either stream the data to Stripe or just true it up at the next billing interval. And then that data then hits Stripe, and if it's a hybrid model, we work well with that. If it's like subscription plus a usage component of if there's overages or something like that, we can at least cover the subscription component in that example.
Got it. Okay. It's a niche scenario, but I appreciate the answer.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're going to see more of it with these AI solutions for sure.
And with that, Rachel and Joss, thank you so much for coming and bringing this session to the Boston HubSpot User Group. It's fantastic and informational and really interesting stuff that you guys have going on. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.